All right, gentlemen, let's look toward the future, the near future. This coming weekend, this coming Saturday night, UFC on ABC 3. Ortega versus Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez, to be specific. Before we get into these fights, let's just remind our audience once again, thank you so much. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe, share this content, all the things. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, and find us on social media and DM us with any of your questions, comments, or concerns. You can find us at @andnew_MMA show. Let's work. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to comment real quick before we start going into the fights. I want the audience to understand the pull that we have here. Because like 3-4 weeks ago, we commented about how weak the UFC Fight Night cards have been. And there's literally been like 3 fire Fight Night cards since then. And this one is so good that we're doing every fight on the card.
Yeah. Oh, we should mention this one is also going to be the first, I believe the first one on ABC now, that of this new run. The third.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Right? I think that's what Mike just said, didn't you?
Yep.
That it's UFC on ABC 3 or whatever. I mean, it's still UFC Fight Night Ortega versus Rodriguez. That's what it says on the UFC page, but
Yeah, all the fight nights have
they
like
all have the
4
multiple names. It's always like on ESPN
It's
number
so
77. Like, yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, UFC Vegas 47 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us, as we are accustomed to do, work our way up this card, starting with the very first fight of the night. In the strawweight division, Jessica Penne takes on Emily Ducat. Penne 14-5 as a professional, 39 years old, taking on the 28-year-old Oklahoma City resident Gordina Emily Ducat, who is 11-6 as a professional. Mark, let me start with you. Give us a quicker take on this bout and ultimately a little picky.
Yeah, this is a good fight right out of the gate. Emily is the former Invicta strawweight champion, so she is certainly credentialed. She is the favorite here, despite being the newcomer. She's minus 155. Jessica Penne is plus 130. I'm a little torn on this one. I get it why Ducat is the favorite. She's younger. She's got power. She does have a solid resume. But I kind of think Penne might be getting overlooked a little bit here. It's funny because I in the old days, I never would have picked Penne. But these last 2 fights since she returned to the UFC from her suspension, I've been really impressed with her. So I'm going to side with her and take a shot and say that she leans on her grappling and that she can get it done and grind out a decision.
Yeah, she's coming off those back-to-back wins over Kovacevic and Godinez, so she's looked pretty good. Omar, give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's not even the fact that she's won her last 2, it's how she's won. She's looked very aggressive. She looks like she really wants to be in there. She looks like she's had whatever resurgence, like whatever rest she had after 2017 really, reignited whatever fire she needed to have, because she's looked good in there. Even with that split decision, I think she's really looked solid. So, if we're doing some MMA math, everything kind of says that Penne should lose this fight. Penne lost to Danielle Taylor. Emily Ducat has knocked out Danielle Taylor with a head kick. So MMA math should dictate one thing. Realistically, though, I think Jessica Penne has the experience. And I think if she's in the right frame of mind, I think she's going to present a real problem. I will go with Jessica Penne, round 2 submission.
I'm going to go with the general theme of the beginning of this episode with our recap and say that the young will continue to cannibalize the old. To quote Luke Thomas, psych, Mark Prio. So I'm going to go with Emily.
You know what I realized? I just say young eat the old. So maybe that's an original Mark Prio and fuck Luke Thomas.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Yeah, fuck Luke Thomas. There you go. Let's see. So I'm going to go with Gordina. I'm going to say TKO round 2. All right, in the middleweight division, Dwight Grant takes on Dustin Stoltz. I hope I'm saying that right. Dwight, the body snatcher, coming off of back-to-back losses, most recently against Sergey I'm not going to say his name. Condosco, thank you. Back in April of this year. Before that, Francisco Trinaldo got the better of him last October. Stoltzfus coming off of 3 consecutive losses. So both guys looking to get back in the win column. Omar, let me throw it over to you first. What's your take on Stoltz taking on Dwight Grant? Who do you think is going to get back in the win column?
I'm not really a fan of either one of these guys, personally.
Dude, that was going to be my opening line. Oh, man.
Like, we're on the same page, guys. That's why we have a podcast together.
I'm not a fan of either one of these guys, to be wholly honest with you. I will, because I recently hated Dwight Grant's fighting more and more as of recent. I'm going to go with Dustin Stoltz. And I will go with him by decision because I don't see either one of them finishing anybody. So that's just where I'm at.
Mark?
All right, so Grant is the favorite here despite moving up in weight. He is minus 140. Stoltz is plus 115. If you watch these to get advice for your bets from us, do me a favor. Don't take my advice on this one. Omar nailed it. I don't like either one of these guys. This is the only fight on this card I don't like. I like every other fight we're going to do here. Obviously, I have to pick it, so I'm going to pick someone, but please do not roll with it. Stoltz is 0-3 in the UFC. He hasn't shown much of anything. Grant has never impressed me even as a welterweight. Now he's moving up a class. But Grant is 2 inches taller. He's 3 inches longer. He's probably faster. He may even have more power despite moving up in weight. So I don't really like him, but the tail of the tape kind of says go with Grant. So that's what I'll do. UD for Grant.
Yo, do you know that every single one of Grant's decisions in the UFC are split decisions, win or loss?
Are they really?
And I feel like they all should have been losses too.
That's some Benson Henderson shit right there. That's madness.
Didn't he?
I'm gonna go Dwight.
Was one against Alan Jouban?
Split.
Yeah, dude, I remember that one. That was brutal.
Love Jouban.
Yeah,
love Jouban.
Joke.
I will go Dwight Grant by decision only because he's the New Yorker taking on the Pennsylvanian. So
is he a New Yorker? Wow, sorry, didn't know that.
Sure Dog says New York, New York.
Whoops.
Okay, moving on.
He don't fight like he from New York.
There you go. Third fight of the night. Dustin Jacoby taking on Da-Un Young or Da-Un Jung. This is a nice fight. Both guys winning streaks coming into the octagon Saturday night. Jacoby, a 3-fight win streak, most recently over Mikhail Oleksiejczuk back in March. Da-Un Jung coming off of back-to-back wins against William Knight, scary man, and Kennedy Nzechukwu, also scary man. So both these guys look good. Omar, why don't you take this one first?
So I've really enjoyed watching Da-Un Jung. You don't really see a lot of light heavyweights or bigger men from that side of the world, and so to see one with such ability and such promise, I think is super great. I've really enjoyed his fights. The Kennedy fight where he elbowed him to hell, it's very impressive. Kennedy's not the most well-rounded or the most the sharpest fighter in the shed for sure, but he's still dangerous, as we saw this past weekend. Definitely has the ability to win a fight. But I think Da-Un Jung is on a different level. I think we're still kind of in the middle of the pack here. I still think he has something to do here. So I'm going to go with Da-Un Jung by first round KO.
Mark?
So yeah, I like this fight a lot. We're getting good on this card already. Both of these guys are just on the edge of the rankings. I actually think the UFC might have even ranked Jacoby. I have him just outside, but whoever wins this fight is going to be in a nice spot. The favorite is Jung. He's minus 125. Jacoby's plus 100, even money. What's interesting is that this fight opened with odds of Jacoby minus 150 and Jung plus 130. So each guy has swung by like 50. And it happened in like a 24-hour span. So seeing something like that is making me really, really hesitant to pick this fight because I was planning to pick Jacoby. But that kind of sudden move makes me think there's like something that sharps know that the public doesn't know. Like maybe Jacoby's injuries that he fought with last fight have not improved or gotten worse. Because remember, he was talking about his legs and that he couldn't kick and so on and so on. So if something like that is the case, then I wouldn't be picking Dustin Jacoby. So I'm a little concerned, but I will pick this as if I'm picking two healthy fighters. And if that's the case, this should be a great fight because I really like both of these guys. Dao Jung has a great record. He hasn't lost a fight since 2015. He is a really strong guy, which could play a factor here, assuming he chooses to grapple Jacoby, which you would think he would look to do. But he can throw hands also. He's got power behind him. But the reason that I'm on Jacoby is that I've seen guys like, I forget his first name, Ibragimov and Sam Alvey give Dao Jung trouble standing. Even though he won those fights. Actually, it was a draw with Alvey, now that I think about it. But even though he looked okay in those fights, he's been in trouble standing from guys who he really shouldn't be. And Dustin Jacoby is on a whole other plane than those guys as a kickboxer. So if the legs are fine, if we're back to real Justin Jacoby who can use all his limbs, I'm assuming he can stay on the feet enough in this fight. And I will say he pieces Jung up a bit and wins a decision.
So I'm a fan of both of these guys. I'm more of a fan of Dao Jung. I love his hands. I think it's great power. And I'm taking him really because I think it's going to be a close fight, but I'm taking him because he has a steeper finish rate with 15 victories. He has 13 finishes, only 2 decisions and 1 draw. Interestingly, both of these guys are undefeated in the UFC with 1 draw in the UFC.
No, Dustin Jacoby's not undefeated in the UFC. This is his second run in the UFC. He'd lost a bunch.
Oh, it's his second run.
Maybe on this run. Yeah, maybe that's what you're looking at. Sorry.
Yes. I didn't look back far enough.
Yeah.
My bad. That being said, I'm taking Jung. I'm going to go knockout round 3. Let's see. Moving on up this fight night, this ABC card. In the featherweight division, Bill Algeo takes on Herbert Burns, who is stepping in. Let's see. Bill Algeo, Senor Perfecto from Pennsylvania, coming off of a win against Joe Anderson Brito back in January of this year. And Herbert the Blaze Burns from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Of course, he's the brother of Gilbert, yeah?
Yep. Little brother.
Yes. Little brother, that's right. He's coming off of a loss against Daniel Pineda, so he's looking to get back in the win column. That loss came in August of 2020, which because of COVID times feels like it was about 3 months ago, but actually there's some distance now on that fight. So he's getting back into the octagon now, looking for a win. Mark, let me send it to you first this time. What is your take on Senor Perfecto Bill Algeo taking on Herbert Burns?
So Algeo is actually a pretty significant favorite here. He's minus 200. Burns is plus 170. I thought that would be closer. This one's interesting because it only just came together like this week, maybe a little more than a week. But they both were already on the card. Both of their opponents just dropped out, and thankfully they happened to be in the same weight class. So they were like, hey, let's pair ourselves up and do this thing. So thankfully we still get to see them both fight. It's honestly still a solid matchup. I feel like it might even be better. Oh, actually, one of them, Algeo was supposed to fight Billy Q, right? That would have been a good one. Yeah. But Burns is getting a better opponent than he had before, so it worked out for him. There certainly may be rust for Herbert Burns. Like you said, it's been about 2 years. I will be curious to see how he looks physically because I feel like there was room to improve there. And with 2 years off, maybe he's gotten a little bit more of an athlete here. Algeo, on the other hand, is like your typical tough, well-rounded, not going to be easy for anyone type of fighter. He's been win one, lose one in the UFC, but his losses are to good guys like Ricardo Lamas and Ricardo Ramos. His problems with guys named Ricardo. And I actually thought he looked really good in his last win over Joe Anderson Brito, who we've since seen knock out Andre Fili, so that says something for Bill Algeo. It's going to be a matter of surviving round 1 for him if Herbert Burns still fights the same way because he typically comes at you with everything he has in round 1, whether it be striking or grappling. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to say he does, and I'm going to say he takes over the fight after that and wins the next 2. So give me Algeo 29-28 UD.
Omar.
Yeah, Bill Algeo is a little workhorse. And I think Mark has it right that if it goes past the first round, Herbert Burns is probably not going to win that fight. With all that being known, I think Herbert Burns could do it. I think this is a fight that is possible to do it in. Bill Algeo as a workhorse as he is, still likes to take it to the ground, and I think Herbert Burns still presents a problem down there. And I think that little family of grapplers there probably has some tricks up their sleeves when they go to the ground, more so than others. So I'm going to go with Herbert Burns by submission round 1.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm shocked to see him at plus 170. That feels kind of big.
The gap between them seems a little much.
Yeah.
I didn't think that Herbert Burns would be the underdog.
Yeah, for stepping in, I think Herbert Burns matches up well with Bill Algeo at this point in their careers. They're similar age, pretty similar records. I'm going to agree with Omar. I think that Herbert Burns, he's a talented guy. Just as a point of reference, alluding to what Mark had said about first-round firepower coming out of Burns, before his loss to Pineda, his fights on Contender Series and then 2 fights in the UFC after that, defeated Derek Minner, Nate Landwehr, and Evan Dunham, all first-round finishes. So he does come out like a bat out of hell. I'm going to go first-round finish for Herbert Burns. Let's say submission, maybe rear naked choke or some kind of submission, jiu-jitsu magic for Herbert Burns round 1.
Round 1 by jiu-jitsu magic.
By jiu-jitsu magic.
Jiu-jitsu.
Okay, moving on up this card. I love this fight in the bantamweight division. Ricky Simone, Jack Shore, the Welshman, squaring off in the octagon. We have Ricky Simone from Vancouver, Washington, riding a 4-fight win streak coming into Saturday night. Most recently defeating Rafael Assunção back in December. Also defeated Brian Boom Kelleher. Also has a win over Ray Borg. Also has a win over Ronnie Yahya. And his 2 losses most recently were at the hands of Uriah Faber and Rob Font. So nothing to scoff at there for Ricky Simone, who in that most recent bout against Rafael Assunção, he finished him with punches in the second round and looked like an absolute fucking Tasmanian devil. Jack Shore, undefeated, 16-0 out of Wales. 4 knockouts, 8 submissions. So a pretty nasty finish right there for Jack Shore, the tank. Let's see. He's undefeated as well, obviously, in the UFC. Most recently defeating Timur Valiev by unanimous decision back in March. Omar, let me send it over to you this time. What is your take and your pick for Ricky Simone taking on Jack Shore?
I'm exhausted thinking about this fight already. This fight is
it's a fucking great fight.
This fight is
great fight.
Going to be balls to the wall, Energizer Bunny, 150 turbo % on. Like this is not going to stop. I don't think at any point in this fight unless somebody gets finished. Which, to be fair, I don't think either one of them are going to finish either one of them. This is going to be a really brutal, violent, consistent fight for 3 rounds. Very difficult to say who wins this fight. To be honest, I think if we matched them up 10 times, I would honestly be surprised if it wasn't 5-5 every time.
I fully agree with that.
My logic would say to go with the undefeated guy, right? To go with Jack Shore. But the truth is, I really like Ricky Simone. And you guys know how I am. My heart outweighs my logic every time. So, regardless of what I think I know, I'm going to go with Ricky Simone by decision.
By UD. UD?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was split. I wouldn't.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I'll give you just decision for now. It could be either. Mark, step in here and give us your thoughts.
All right. So, you want to guess who the favorite is?
I'm going to guess it's the undefeated
I'm going to
fighter.
go Jack Shore.
It is, yes. He's minus 165. Simone is plus 140. I wasn't sure because Simone has proven more in the UFC, of course. But, yeah, so Shore is the favorite. This is such a good fight. I love this matchup. First off, can someone tell me what this is doing on the prelims? We have Matt Schnell and Sue Muderji on the main card, and we have this on the prelims. Like, who compared those? It was like, man, Matt Schnell on the main card, definitely. Like, what is happening here? So it's not even main eventing the prelims. It's behind the Soriano Longiambula fight. I don't get the placement of this fight at all. But anyway, this is a great fight because we're going to find out exactly what we have in Jack Shore. The kid is 27, though Simone is still only 29, which feels kind of wild. But Shore's going to have a 3-inch height advantage. He'll have a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's yet to lose a fight, as we've said. The guy's 16-0. And as Omar alluded to, it's always tricky to say, like, is this going to be the one where the undefeated fighter finally gets beat? But I'm kind of feeling like Jack Shore is going to struggle to do Jack Shore things to Ricky Simone. I know in the end he did manage to do them to Timur Valiev, which absolutely says something. But I kind of feel like Simone is a better version of Timur Valiev. And Simone is really strong. He's faster than Shore. He's probably more explosive. He can wrestle. He's powerful. And his stand-up seems to have made vast improvements to the point that Shore, I think, is going to have to be real careful on the feet to not get caught with something big. So I think it's going to be competitive. I will say it goes the full 15, and I could absolutely see a world where Jack Shore works behind the jab and is kind of slicker in the grappling exchanges, even though he's not necessarily stronger, and wins that way. But I'm going to go with Simone and say he kind of out-explosives him in different moments and has the bigger moments and wins 29-28.
Well, we are unanimous.
Wow.
I, too, am a huge Ricky Simone fan. I mean, I love watching Jack Shore fight as well. But, yeah, I'm going Ricky Simone. Let's go. Fuck it. It's on the undercard, and it shouldn't be, but I'm picking with my heart this time. I mean, Ricky Simone may not be undefeated, but his record is a goddamn 19-3.
His resume is also his resume is solid. He's got value wins in his resume.
Oh, for sure. He's got to win over Marab, as weird as it was.
As crazy,
Right.
I mean, more than anything, if you take away the win itself, that fight was still madness, absolute madness from bell to bell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably going to be how the Jack Shore fight's going to go. To be honest, is basically that Marab fight again.
Yeah.
So the last event I did for Warriors Cup Muay Thai in New York City, I looked at the record of the two guys who had the very first fight of the night. And almost always, I mean, every other time, they start the night off, and the event goes like this. Mark, you've been to one.
Yep.
In terms of, like, amateur level, talent level. So the night starts off with, like, a couple of, like, 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds who are either first amateur fight ever, or they're, like, 0-1 or 1-1 or maybe 1-0. So the last time I did Warriors Cup, I looked at the bout sheet, and the first fight was, like, a guy who was, like, 8-2, and the other guy was like 7-1. I was like, damn, you put a good fight on for the first fight. And the guys who run it are like, yeah, we want to start the night off with a little more energy. And sure enough, these two guys came out super talented. It was a banger. And maybe the UFC is doing something kind of like this, even though I feel like it might be better if they put Simone versus Shore in the very first fight of the night. But maybe they're kind of doing that with the undercard.
Are these not? Is the undercard on ABC?
Let's see.
Let me see how this is set up actually.
Because I would get it if they were main eventing the prelims at least over Soriano and Lungiambula to make it be like, wow, that fight was so good, I got to flip over to ABC now. But they're not even main eventing the prelims, so I don't get the logic. I really don't.
The prelims are only on ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus.
Yeah, see, I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
It's not even headlining the prelims. It's not the first fight on the main card.
No.
We're spending a lot of time talking about how shitty their placement is, but it really is shitty. Like, it's not great.
It's a great card, but this one's
in
the wrong spot.
Great fucking card. It is the wrong spot. I will still have my popcorn nonetheless. Let's move on to the featured bout of the prelims on ESPN and ESPN Plus of UFC on ABC3 in the middleweight division.
What's so UFC Fight Night, Ortega versus Rodriguez.
Yeah.
That's right.
You said like six titles. We're
all the tags just got thrown out.
That's right. Middleweight division, Punahele Soriano takes on Dalcha Lungiambula. I hope I said that right.
That was
yes,
good.
I think I did.
Yep.
Soriano. I like Soriano. I love that his nickname is Storytime. Unfortunately, he is coming off of back-to-back losses coming into Saturday night. And Lungiambula also coming off back-to-back losses. That's right. Both guys talented nonetheless. Lungiambula, the South African 34-year-old, his record as a pro 11-4. Soriano, the Hawaiian, of course, coming into Saturday night with an 8-2 record. Mark, let's start with you this time. What do you think about this matchup between Puna Soriano taking on Lungiambula?
All right, Puna is the favorite at minus 230. Lungiambula is plus 190 as the dog. I think Puna Soriano is a good fighter who hasn't truly been able to show how good yet in the UFC. I think he's struggled a bit across from grapplers, but he should get the kind of fight he wants here. And although Lungiambula will carry a 3.5-inch reach advantage, which could always be a factor, I think Puna puts him down early. I think the exchanges get heated, maybe 2-3 minutes into the fight. Puna finds the off switch, round 1 knockout.
Okay. Omar?
Yeah, I think Soriano is just the better fighter, personally. I also think that he's Dalcha carries around a lot of muscle on his body, and I just think it's going to make him a lot slower than Soriano's going to be. And Soriano's just as strong as I would assume, as far as striking is concerned, to Lungiambula. So I'm going to go with Soriano by KO. I'm going to do it round 2, though. I think he's going to have to deal with some shit in round 1. I think there's going to be a little bit of a blitz from Lungiambula in round 1 that he's going to have to survive. I think he will, because I do think he's a better fighter. In round 2, I think once there's a little bit of gas and some lactic acid build up, I think Soriano will excel and take him out in round 2.
We are unanimous once again. Soriano, I'm going Soriano by knockout, round number 2. Let's go.
Very nice.
Nice.
Next fight up, women's flyweight. It's getting better and better. We have Lauren Murphy taking on Misha Cupcake Tate. Lauren Murphy, of course, her 5-fight win streak ended when she challenged for the belt against Valentina. And Misha Tate, really needing no introduction, former UFC women's flyweight champion, women's bantamweight champion. Moving down to women's flyweight. She took a hiatus after back-to-back losses to Nunes, in which she lost the belt in dramatic fashion, and then she lost to Raquel Pennington. She took some time off. She came back. She looked amazing against Marion Renault. And then she fought Ketlin Vieira and did not look so good. So, Omar, let me throw it over to you first this time. What do you think about this matchup now between the former flyweight title challenger Lauren Murphy taking on the former champion Misha Tate?
So, it's an interesting fight. I think stylistically, Misha Tate is a much more refined version of Lauren Murphy. I think she does everything that Lauren Murphy does, but I think she does it significantly better than she does. I think there was a lot of problems in that Ketlin Vieira fight with Misha Tate. I think there was a bit of a size difference, number one, that she had to overcome, and it didn't really seem like her takedown. She was either able to get in on them or get them completed as it was. I don't think she'll have that trouble here against Lauren Murphy. I even think her striking will be way more effective in this fight than it was in the Ketlin Vieira fight. I wouldn't even be surprised to see a lot more hands getting thrown in this fight from Tate. But I do think she ends up dominating Lauren. I think Lauren showed that against Shevchenko there are levels to this, and I don't think Lauren Murphy is anywhere near that upper echelon of fighter when it comes to the champions in that department. Misha's been there. Misha's tasted gold. You know, we can talk about how different technique-wise other strikers look to the way she strikes and this, that, and the other. But Misha has elite-level ground skill, and she also has proven that she has the heart of a champion, because even when she loses, she still very much has fight in her to come back and win. So I'm definitely going to go with Misha Tate. I will go with Misha Tate by TKO round 2. Ground and pound.
Wow. Ground and pound? Wow.
Ground
Mark,
and pound.
Take it.
Misha.
I like the confidence.
Just about a 2-1 favorite. She's minus 210. Lauren Murphy is plus 175. So, yeah, we got Misha Tate starting the 125-pound experiment here, trying to get herself into a fight with Valentina Shevchenko. It's going to be interesting to see her down 10 pounds. Of course, I'm going to pick her to start it off with a win, because I don't pick Lauren Murphy ever. But truly, I expect Misha to be strong at 125, assuming she makes the cut with no issue. And Omar nailed it, honestly. I'm not going to rehash everything he said. I think he nailed it with how they match up with the advantages that Tate has in there. And I don't really see what Lauren Murphy has in her game that matches up well with Misha Tate. It just feels like a safe matchup for Tate to me. I think she's able to control the whole fight. Whether it's the grappling or the striking or a mix, I think she is the one that dictates it, controls it. I think she looks good. UD Misha Tate.
I think the thing that Tate ran into against Ketlin Vieira, I think Omar touched on it, was really that size difference. Yep. I mean, Ketlin Vieira, Misha Tate's listed at 5'6", Ketlin Vieira's listed at 5'8", but somehow Ketlin Vieira just looks like a giant in there. She looks like she's 6 feet tall, standing over these other girls.
She looks so much thicker.
That's not
too. Like she just looks a lot.
I know, yeah.
Wider.
She's big.
Yeah.
That's not as much going to be the case with Lauren Murphy, who is 1 inch taller than Misha Tate, but I believe that that size differential is not going to be a factor here. And I agree. I mean, I would hate for Lauren Murphy to kind of spoil Misha's return tour, more. Because I agree with Omar that I think Misha should be better everywhere. So if I have to take Misha Tate to win this fight, I'm going to take her by unanimous decision. And if Misha Tate does not win this fight, I will be very sad.
I'll tell you right now, if Misha Tate looks fantastic and gets caught by something stupid, like a flying knee or something like that, I won't cry. Like, I'll be okay with that. But if Misha Tate looks like garbage against Lauren Murphy, we're in a completely different realm of reality than I'm prepared for. So I'm just hoping that that's what's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, look, Lauren Murphy, she has 15 wins. 8 of them are either KOs or TKOs. So it's not like she doesn't have, strong punches that she can put together. But come on, Misha. Come on.
You want to know what's crazy? So obviously Manon Fior is fighting Jessica Andrade, right? And assuming Manon Fior wins that fight, title shot probably belongs to her. Say Andrade wins. She's not going to fight Shevchenko again right away. At least I wouldn't expect it. If Misha Tate wins this fight and Andrade wins that fight, Misha Tate might get a title shot right out of the gate on her name alone.
Let's go.
It sells. It 100% sells.
Of course. And wouldn't you love to see Misha try her chances against Valentina?
I would love to see. I would love to see Shevchenko. Yeah, I mean, stylistically, it actually seems like a terrible fight for Misha, but I would still love to see somebody with actual championship experience. Like, we haven't seen a real super crazy contender against Shevchenko in years at this point.
Yeah,
I would probably argue a majority of her.
Andrade has that pedigree.
Yes, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But there have been other ones that don't necessarily fit that mold, and they've just sort of gotten title shots by default,
Yes.
Cool. Let's see. And just so y'all know, Lauren Murphy versus Misha Tate is the first fight on the main card.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Not bad.
Okay, this next fight. Fire.
Yeah.
In the featherweight division, Shane Hurricane Burgos takes on Charles Air Jourdain. What a great fight, man. Featherweight's awesome. So you have Burgos, 31-year-old from Woodbury, New York. He's 14-3 as a pro. 5 knockouts, 5 subs on his record. After dropping back-to-back fights to Josh Emmett and Edson Barbosa, nothing to scoff at, Burgos got back in the win column by taking the decision over Billy Quarantillo. And he's looking to stay in the win column, obviously, this weekend. I mentioned his record, and he's also 7-3 in the UFC. Jourdain, back-to-back wins coming into this weekend over Andre Ewell and Lando Venata. He's looking to extend that win streak to 3, obviously, this weekend. And he himself is 4-3-1 in the UFC. Mark, let's start with you this time. What is your take on Burgos versus Jourdain? Really exciting, nice little featherweight matchup.
Yeah. The hometown boy is the favorite here. He's minus 175. Jourdain is plus 145 as the dog. If this one is not a banger, something went terribly wrong. I like Shane Burgos. I always have. He always impresses me. He has had some very tough losses in his career. The Emmett one was close. The Barbosa one was wild and a banger, how his body just said no mas.
Yeah.
And a loss here would definitely dim his star a bit. As good as Charles Jourdain has looked, he is not of the resume of those guys I just mentioned. So he's got to win here to hang on to his ranking. And I'm going to say that I think he can do it. I think he can hold Jourdain off in a war. Jourdain is sneaky good, but Shane Burgos is going to be working with a 6-inch reach advantage, which is a lot. He's got the hometown crowd, and he's got a chin for days. Plus, Jourdain has made it to this point without really fighting a single power puncher in the UFC, if you look at his resume. And he did get dropped bad by Julian Erosa along the way. So if Erosa can drop him, you got to think Burgos can. So I think that Burgos' power is going to accumulate, and it's going to swing this fight. Maybe Jourdain front runs it and wins round 1. But I think Burgos starts to accrue damage on him to the body, some solid headshots. It adds up, eventually breaks him. I will say Shane Burgos gets a TKO in round 3.
Oh, baby. Omar, give us your thoughts on this awesome featherweight matchup between Burgos and Jourdain.
Yeah, this is a crazy, crazy fight. I love Shane Burgos. Charles Jourdain, though, in his recent fights has just looked really aggressive and impressively aggressive. I feel like he's taken a different step in his career. Like, it's very different from, I feel like, the Jourdain that we've seen before. And Shane Burgos has looked equally good, to be honest. Even in his losses, I thought he's looked very solid, very competitive with the guys who are top tier. And even against the Edson Barbosa, his body just said no. His body betrayed him. He was very much still in that fight, very much willing to keep going. And it was still competitive even when his body turned off. So it's right now, considering the circumstances, if this was Charles Jourdain against somebody else, I probably would pick him. But against Shane Burgos, I don't think I can. So I'm going to go with Shane Burgos. I do think it's going to be a decision, though, and I think it's going to be a hard-fought decision. I wouldn't be surprised if this is fight of the night or if the Ricky Simone was fight of the night. Either one of these has recipes for pure violence.
Or the main event.
100%.
Or the main event, right.
Main event's got to be in that running as well.
Sure.
But I agree. I think if I had a bet on it, I think I'd bet this one.
Yeah.
Really? That's nice.
Dude, this one is going to be fire, man.
Jourdain is great to watch, but I'm a huge Shane Burgos fan.
Wow,
Hurricane
Burgos.
Shane is my guy. I'm going Burgos as well. I agree that I think it's clearly going to be a scrap. Could be a war. What always impresses me about Burgos and why I love watching him is because some guys are savages, but you might not say are super skilled. Some guys are very skilled. You might not say are savage. Shane Burgos is both.
Yep.
I think he actually, while being a killer, he managed to actually be very, very skillful and pretty technical, in my opinion. And yeah, the fights that he's dropped recently, out of his 3 losses, 2 of them are against Josh Emmett, who now is at the top of the division, and Edson Barbosa, who strike for strike is one of the best kickboxers at 145 pounds, and a guy who used to be at 155. So neither one of those losses are anything to take anything away from Shane Burgos. So I'm going Burgos. Why not? I'll say he gets a TKO in round 3.
That's 4 straight fights unanimous from us. We had some differences early, but we are on the same page at the moment.
We should start a YouTube show together.
It's all these emotional ass picks is what it is.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like on pay-per-views, I'm a little more disciplined. I'm not picking guys that I root for, but on this fight night, I'm kind of like, fuck it. Fuck it.
I don't know if any of us are big fans of these next 2, so we'll see.
It's true. Let's see. In the flyweight division, yes, Matt Danger Schnell taking on Sue Muderji. I love his nickname, though, the Tibetan Eagle, fighting out of China. Let's see. Matt Schnell, he's coming off of a loss at the hands of my guy Brandon Royval this past May. Muderji riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend.
No?
Yeah, I think it's Muderji.
Muderji? My bad. The Tibetan Eagle, nonetheless. He's riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend, and he's 3-1 in the UFC so far. So, Omar, let me send it over to you first this time. Muderji versus Schnell. What's your take?
So the last fight that I feel like Muderji had, it wasn't as impressive as his fight before. Matt Schnell is a wild dude. The last fight that he had against Brandon Royval was one of those fights that could have gone either way depending on who caught what. In the middle of those scrambles, Matt Schnell is definitely the type of guy to get in those wild exchanges and those wild scrambles if he needs to. And to be honest, I think amongst most people, I would probably pick Matt Schnell to succeed in that area. And so for that reason, even though he's had a little bit of a rough outing in his last few fights, I'm going to go with Matt Schnell by submission, rear naked choke.
Mark, what's your pick and your take?
So Muderji is a big favorite here. He's minus 275. Matt Schnell is plus 215. I mentioned it earlier, but this one feels like a bit of a speed bump to me on the main card. I'm not sure why this one was not swapped out for the Simone one. But I think this basically comes down to Muderji dictating range and Schnell trying to crash inside of it. I think Schnell may actually have to adopt the same strategy he did against Royval of just making it like a crazy scrap, except it will actually make sense in this fight, whereas in that one it didn't. I do think Schnell is live and could do it. He's good at finding small moments to capitalize on things, I would say. But I think Muderji just has the advantages. I think he's the better striker. I think he is very good at dictating that range. I think he can keep it. I don't think he's at a disadvantage in the grappling. I think he can hang enough, and I think he's just going to outpoint Matt Schnell and take a UD.
So I'm going with Muderji in this one. I think he has clearly the edge in power. I mean, if you look at their records, Matt Schnell, 15-6 as a pro, 2 knockouts. Muderji, he does have a lot of submissions, 8 submission wins.
Yep.
Muderji, 16 victories, 14 of them are finishes, 13 knockouts. I'm going to go with Muderji by TKO. I'm going to say round number 2. Unfortunately, Matt Schnell is going to extend his losing streak to 3, and Muderji is going to keep on rolling and probably get a bigger matchup next time with a 4-fight win streak to his name. So there you have it, boys. Not unanimous on that one.
Just want to point out, Matt Schnell has a majority of his victories, as you said, 8 victories by submission. Your man Muderji has 4 losses. All 4 of those losses are submission. Oh, just saying. Matt Schnell, they said you ain't shit. Let's go. Get that W, Matt Schnell. Let's go.
Maybe I'm overrating how safe I think Muderji can be in the grappling. I didn't pay attention to the pre-UFC record as much as I maybe should have there.
Let's go, Matt Schnell.
We'll see. I'll stand by the take. He's improved it, guys.
All right, it's true. All right, big fight in the welterweight division. Li Jinliang taking on Muslam Salikov. Li Jinliang from China, obviously, is 18-7 as a pro, 34-year-old. Let's see. Out of his 18 victories, he has 13 finishes, 9 of them knockouts. Salikov, the king of Kung Fu from Dagestan, 18-2 as a pro. God, all these guys from Dagestan have fucking great records. 18 victories, 12 knockouts, 14 finishes overall. Jinliang coming off of a loss against Khamzat Chimaev, that, really embarrassing fight where Chimaev pretty much picked him up like a child. I don't know if Jinliang even got a chance to throw a punch in that fight.
I don't think so.
And
not one that
Salikov riding a 5. Yeah, right. Salikov is riding a 5-fight win streak in the UFC. He lost his first UFC bout and has won the last 5 straight. Omar, let me send it to you this time first. Li Jinliang, Muslim Salikov. What's your take and your pick?
I love Li Jinliang. I don't know why. I find him so entertaining. I find him fun. I just don't know how good his grappling is. Good. I just don't know how good, because there's something to be left, as far as his vulnerabilities are concerned with his wrestling. Salikov seems like the type of fighter that probably has less of those kind of vulnerabilities and probably can capitalize on people with those vulnerabilities. I just think that from a stylistic standpoint, this is a bad matchup for Li Jingliang. I'm going to go with Salikov. I'm going to go with Salikov by decision.
Mark?
All right, so Muslim is the favorite here. He's minus 175. Li Jingliang is plus 145. This is another great matchup on this card. I think this one boils down to the technique in the corner of Salikov against the explosiveness and power in the corner of Jingliang. Honestly, I hate that Salikov is getting this chance and that my boy Zaleski dos Santos hasn't gotten it because he beat Muslim in nearly everyone's eyes, including mine, and got robbed. But that's neither here nor there. I just had to go to bat for my guy. I know there's hype on Muslim Salikov, but he's already 38. So maybe we got him in the UFC too late. I don't know. But, we'll find out here. If he smokes Jingliang, then the hype is still real. But to me, as good as he's been, I kind of think he may not be as good as people want him to be. He's had some fights where he's kind of just looked middle of the road to me. Like he lost to Alex Garcia, as you said in his debut, which is not, that's not a great loss. I thought he lost to Zaleski, as a lot of people did. I wasn't even crazy impressed in his last win over Francisco Trinaldo. But, of course, then he has these moments where he just throws some strike or combo that's so picture-perfect that it's like, oh, wow, look at Muslim Salikov. So, he's good, but I think Lee can stop him here. I think he can kind of crash through the technique. I think he's got big explosive movements, big power. I think he can be quick in and out of range. I think sometimes Salikov is not as quick as he needs to be in terms of distance being closed on him. I think Lee can get it done. I'm going to say Lee finds a big one at some point and puts Muslim out. I will say round 3 knockout.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
I would love that. That'd be dope.
Big pick. What are the odds again? What's the spread?
Lee's a 145 dog. Muslim is a minus 175 favorite.
What the hell is the line for Li Jingliang by knockout? That's got to be crazy.
I don't know. I could try to look while Mike's talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I think this is going to be a sort of y'all must have forgot performance for Li Jingliang.
Oh, you're with me.
I think because of the way that he lost to Chimaev, because Chimaev is such a phenom, people don't realize, or maybe kind of forgot how good Li Jingliang is, and how much of a real litmus test he was supposed to be for Khamzat Chimaev, and that just kind of fizzled out like somebody popped a balloon. So I'm going to go.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. My fault.
I'll just finish and say I'm going to take Li Jingliang by unanimous decision. And what I think is going to be a tough fight, I don't see Jingliang blowing Salikov out of the water or finishing him. So I'm going to say it's going to be a tough fight, but I think Jingliang is going to outpoint him and he's going to take the decision.
Like it. So the most likely outcome on the Jingliang side is knockout. He's plus 330 by knockout, plus 450 by decision, and then plus 1,400 by sub, which I'm sure is not going to be happening. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, let's move on to the co-main event on UFC ABC 3 Fight Night number who knows what. The co-main event in the women's strawweight division, Michelle, the Karate Hottie Watterson, taking on Amandinha Lemos out of Brazil. The Karate Hottie, obviously from the famous Albuquerque epicenter of MMA in America. Michelle Watterson, something of a legend, you can say, in the sport. The Karate Hottie is 36 years old, 18-9 as a professional in MMA, fighting out of the famed Jackson Wink MMA gym down in Albuquerque. She's coming off of a loss against Marina Rodriguez back in May of 2021, so over a year ago. Amanda Lemos, the Brazilian, most recently got choked out arm triangle choked out by Jessica Andrade, sort of that spectacular finish that Andrade pulls off, that standing arm triangle. But before that, Andrade snapped Lemos's 5-fight win streak, and she was really cruising in the UFC. And she is no joke at 115 pounds. So I think this is going to be a big handful fight for Michelle Watterson. But let me not give my pick away. Let me get to you guys first. Mark, let me send it to you this time first. What's your take on Watterson versus Lemos at 115 pounds?
Lemos, big favorite, minus 330. Watterson plus 260. I'm happy to see Michelle Watterson back after over a year on the sidelines, as you mentioned. But I, like you, do not think this matchup bodes well for her. I think Lemos is just too strong, and the stronger the opponent, the more I'm always concerned about Watterson. She has always kind of struck me as, and she was this earlier in her career, as someone who could be at atomweight. Obviously, the UFC does not have atomweight. I think the power goes to Lemos. I think the strength goes to Lemos. The explosion goes to Lemos. It's possible that Waterson has the cleaner technique, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think that Lemos' striking looked good against Andrade before she got arm triangled. I think it's plenty good enough. And I think it'll look good again here. I don't think that Michelle's going to have any grappling advantage to necessarily go to either if things are going wrong. My only question really is whether Michelle gets finished. She's really tough. She doesn't tend to get finished. I haven't looked at her resume. I'm not sure if there's more finishes than I realize. In my head, she doesn't really get finished. But I'm going to say she does here. I will say late round 2 TKO for Amanda Lemos.
Omar.
Last time that she got finished was by Rose, and that was by submission, rear naked choke in 2017. She's only been finished 4 times, 3 submissions, 1 knockout.
Sorry, yeah. When I was speaking, I was saying finish. I meant by strikes. So yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So only one by knockout.
I know she's been subbed a couple. Yeah. All right. So yeah, the point works.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a Michelle Watterson fan. I was a fan of her long before she was in the UFC, when Invicta was kind of at its peak. Really showcasing women before the UFC was doing it. Michelle Watterson was one of those faces that was, bringing everybody in. The Jessica Pennes, the Michelle Wattersons, the Carla Esparzas, the Rose Namajunas, like they were all the early faces. The Roxanne Modaffieris, all of them were Invicta alums back in the day. So I've been a big fan of hers for a while. When it comes to somebody against Lemos, you brought up a really good point with the power that Lemos presents, and it is going to be a problem, I think. The one thing that Waterson likes to do, I feel like, in these situations, when there is somebody who's stronger or presents a real striking issue, she tends to rely a lot on her push kicks and her side kicks. Mm-hmm. I honestly think that shit's not going to work for 3 rounds. The one thing I know is, the push kicks and the side kicks are going to start making her tired if Amanda's able to push through them. They'll probably work early, they'll probably land early, but I think the more that she throws them, the weaker they're going to get over time, and the more Amanda's going to be able to push through and probably capitalize on a lot of them. The one thing we also know is those side kicks also usually don't come with anything behind them. They're usually distance makers. And so if anything does go wrong with those techniques, whether she misses, slides off of a sweaty body, or whatever the case is, if Amanda's able to close distance off of a counter from one of those kicks, that's probably going to be Michelle's ass. I just think Michelle needs to be more perfect than not in this fight when it comes to her ability to win and not get knocked out. And I think Amanda has a little bit more wiggle room to not be perfect, so to say. So I'm going to go with Amanda by knockout. I think it will come late in the fight, but I do think she finds her chin. I'll go 3rd round knockout.
I'm taking Amanda Lemos because I think, as we've been talking, is a bad matchup for Michelle Watterson at this point in their careers. Even though Lemos, she seems like the younger one, even though she's only a year younger. Amanda Lemos is 35. Michelle Watterson is 36. But Lemos has been much more active past year or so, whereas Watterson hasn't fought in over a year. And that being said, according to their records, Watterson has a lot more miles on her body in terms of fights. And I think that's going to catch up to her. Added to the fact that she's going to be the smaller fighter. And Michelle Watterson she fights small, whereas Amanda Lemos, she at 5'4", at 115 pounds, she fights big. She thumps. She cracks, man. She walks her opponents down. I want to say that she's going to finish her in the first round, but I am going to try to give Michelle Watterson enough credit to say that she is a smart fighter and a very talented kickboxer, and I think that she's going to survive the 3 rounds and lose in a unanimous decision to Amanda Lemos. Okay.
Yep.
The time has come, gentlemen, for the main event of the evening of UFC on ABC 3.
Oh, baby.
Brian T-City Ortega taking on Yair Rodriguez in a consequential featherweight bout. Brian Ortega went 14-0 as a professional before he fought Max Holloway. He at that point, stepping into the cage against Max Bless Holloway, Ortega had a 70% finish rate and had finished his previous 7 opponents going into that fight against Ortega. He, of course, lost that fight to Ortega, the first and worst loss of his career. He came back, he bounced back, and looked amazing against the Korean Zombie. And then he challenged for the belt and lost decision to Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who is now the number 1 pound-for-pound ranked fighter in the UFC rankings.
Is he really?
Yair Rodriguez, yes.
Wow, I didn't see that.
Did I share that with you
Yeah,
guys?
he texted us earlier about it.
No, that was from MMA Fighting.
Oh.
That's their ranking?
Yeah, it's not the UFC's. The UFC's is still Kamaru. Alexander's second.
Yeah.
You know, to be honest, I didn't even know that MMA Fighting had their own ranking system.
Yeah. I think only for like top
They copy
10s and
this.
shit, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
By
continue.
the way,
Yeah.
that's nothing to scoff
No,
at.
no.
Yair Rodriguez El Pantera from Mexico. He himself is coming off of a big loss against Max Holloway. That fight was a war that Yair Rodriguez took the worst of. Both guys went to the hospital after that. But it was a war nonetheless. A lot of Yair Rodriguez's fights tend to be wars. His fight against the Korean Zombie, which ended in my opinion, the most spectacular knockout I have ever seen. With that, I don't even know what to call it, elbow, that spinning up down elbow. This fight, gentlemen, is a guaranteed banger at 145 pounds. Omar, let me send it to you first. What are your thoughts of this matchup between Brian T-City Ortega and Yair El Pantera Rodriguez?
So I love this matchup. I think it's very, very interesting because both guys are very good everywhere, although they have their specialities in their own areas.
100%.
Right? So Brian Ortega's got hands. Brian Ortega's got knockouts. He's got knees. He's got hands. He's very, very good with striking, for sure. But I think we would all agree, himself included, that his bread and butter, his place that he lives, is on the ground, is in a jiu-jitsu match. That's, if you asked him where he would feel more confident in the finish, I would assume he would say in a choke, right? Whereas Rodriguez wants to 540 kick you in the face. But if he gets on the ground, it's very possible he will snatch up a triangle, snatch up an arm, find your neck somewhere. He'll find the opportunities if they present themselves. But I think, actually, that's probably the best way to describe it. I think they have the ability to present themselves with more opportunities, give themselves more opportunities in their specialities, right? So Yair is much more able to present more opportunities and lay more traps in the striking department, where Ortega would probably do the same in the grappling department. With that being said, I think they both can hang with each other in both areas. I don't think it's as much of a gimme on the ground as a lot of other people that Ortega has been with in the past. That's not to say it wouldn't be something tight. It wouldn't be something that would be competitive. But I think Yair would be able to hang down there for a majority of the fight. Definitely a possibility that he can get caught and get finished in a grappling match for sure. But the same way, I think that Brian Ortega's definitely got the ability to stand up with Yair as well. Yair throws a lot of flashy shit that I don't think Brian is going to fall for like other people have. And I think it'll be just as competitive on the feet as it could be on the ground. So With all of that being said, it is a very difficult decision to figure out who's going to come out on top. This is another one that I don't know if they're going to finish each other. I just think they're both going to be really fucked up by the end of this fight. I want Yair to win. I want Yair to pass that ceiling that seems to have been ever so slammed in his face time and time again. But it just seems like Brian Ortega is just a tall order to get past. And I just don't know if this is the one that he's going to be able to do it on. I want him to. I will be rooting for him. But I think this is Ortega's fight, and I think he will win. I will go by decision, Brian Ortega.
Wow. Omar, I really had you pegged for Yair.
I want to, though, man. Like, I want to. I really want to.
Okay, so odds are a little wider than I thought. Ortega's minus 175. Yair's plus 145. This is a hell of a main event. It's one of those fights that feels like it should have happened by now in the featherweight division. We're finally going to get to see it. It's two guys who are all action all the time, literally never in bad fights. They can both finish a fight from anywhere. They're both crazy tough. You know, it checks every box of what is hopefully going to be a banger of a main event. Omar kind of nailed it to me in that I kind of feel like it's simple to break this one down. They're both good everywhere, but Ortega's going to have to show that he can stand with the whirlwind that is Yair Rodriguez, and Yair is going to have to show that he can stay off the ground or get back up from underneath Brian Ortega. And I think I just trust Ortega to do his part there more than I trust Yair to do his. As much as Ortega gets hit, I do think he has solid defensive movement to avoid like the big shots. He kind of gets touched a lot. But nothing, you know, obviously he's never been finished. He switches stances. He takes angles. The way he backsteps kind of makes guys miss at times. I know Yair is going to be throwing things from angles that Ortega's probably not used to because no one's used to the angles that Yair takes. But Ortega has shown that he can take a beating in there, whereas Yair just got out-grappled by Max Holloway. Like, as good as Yair looked in that fight, it was Max's wrestling and grappling that may have made the difference on those cards. So for that reason, I'm leaning towards Ortega. And then on top of that, I think Yair fights with a very loose style. Like he escapes from being crowded by making movements that you wouldn't exactly teach. Like against Holloway, he kept like doing the big head ducks to weave in and out. And he strikes me as someone who sometimes thinks that he's safer than he is. And I don't think someone with that mentality, it's the same reason I picked Oliveira over Poirier, because I feel like Poirier sometimes moves like he's safer than he is. And Oliveira is a guy who will snatch that. And I feel the same about Yair, and I feel the same about Ortega, in that he is the guy who will snatch a sub on you in the blink of an eye when you think that you're fine. And I think that happens. I'm going to say Ortega grabs a guillotine in round 3, submission finish for Brian Ortega.
I will say, when it comes to Yair, the thing that is, I think, always frustrated me, and it'd be really nice to see something fucking different from that kid. But the thing that has always frustrated me is whenever he does get taken down, he has this affinity to stay on the ground and play a jiu-jitsu game that he's not going to get. Like, after a certain point, like, you still on the ground trying to play this and never really trying to get back up doesn't work. And he's lost fights because of those decisions. The Frankie Edgar one, I think, you know, granted, getting up from a Frankie Edgar takedown.
I was going to say that one, he was just getting drubbed.
But Jesus Christ, he didn't even really try to get up. Like, he just stayed in the guard, kept trying to play guard, kept trying to hold him down. Like, there was at no point ever him trying to frame, shrimp out, try to work his way to the cage. Like, I get if you couldn't, but he never even seemed like he tried. He seemed like he was content to just stay on the ground and try to find a submission and ride the round out from the bottom. And against somebody like Brian Ortega, if Brian decides to take it to the ground for whatever reason, like, that's not where you want to be. Like, you don't want to stay down there voluntarily because I don't think that he's going to be able to submit Brian Ortega. I think at best they might be able to cancel each other's submissions out, but I don't think he's going to be able to catch Brian Ortega in a submission. And so staying on the ground from bottom like that just for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem like it's gonna help him. So I hope he's seen that in his tapes, and somebody's making that adjustment with him.
I also think Ortega is going to be very motivated to find a sub. Having those two tight on Volkanovski to potentially become the champ and not finishing either one, I think he's going to be motivated to come in here and be like, I am still that guy, and I'll tap anybody.
Yeah, if you've heard his interviews, that shit sounds like it eats at him when he brushes his teeth, when he's like making breakfast, like that.
I haven't watched,
dude. He's like, he thinks he was talking to the reporters, and he was like, I think about it all the time, like, how the fuck did he get out of that guillotine? How did he get out of that choke?
Wow.
And he
said, we all think the same thing, Brian.
But the thing I love about Brian, though, and one of the reasons why I think Brian is going to really be at the top of the heap for a long time is that mentality. He's not like where McGregor, for all the things we talk about McGregor, one of the things that drives me crazy about McGregor is his delusions. And like O'Malley too. Like O'Malley thinks that he's like 17-0 now or whatever the hell it is. With a knockout win over Pedro Munoz or something like that. Like Brian Ortega is very honest with himself. He's like, he was tough. He's a tough motherfucker. Had me messed up. I thought I was going to win the belt, and I didn't. And I got played. I played myself. And he's like, I got to take a page out of Volkanovski's book, man, because he's just a tier above everybody right now. And he really had me feeling like I sucked. Like I was really just not a great fighter. And so, he had to go back to the drawing board. And I mean, think about it though, dude. Think about how we said it after the Holloway fight, how much better Volkanovski looks than Holloway. You can't tell me Holloway didn't go home that night in his private time, in his own headspace, and for a moment think to himself, man, I don't think I'm better than that motherfucker at all.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be rough. It's got to be rough to have that realization and be honest with yourself about that stuff, and even more so to admit it to a bunch of fucking people. So I think it makes Ortega, in my opinion, stronger because it allows him to put all his cards onto the table, and it almost holds him accountable for his future things going forward. Whereas you keep lying to each other, you keep deluding yourself, and you almost take the zing out of the actual accomplishments. You know what I mean? Because you're downplaying the reality of the situation. I think it says more to me when Brian Ortega goes, Volkanovski fucked me up, and as a result, I had to step my game up. I had to go that extra mile. I realized that I could have been doing more, that that there is another level for me to achieve because Volkanovski whooped my ass. Whereas O'Malley's like, nah, dog, Pedro Munoz ain't shit. Next fighter. And I just don't think, from a mentality standpoint, I trust that Brian Ortega mentality over an O'Malley standpoint any day of the week.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Mike, we both went Ortega. Are you going to go the other way here or what? Wow, unanimous Ortega.
First say,
poor Rodriguez.
My rationale is this. I think my rationale is kind of similar to yours, Mark. I think, for me, it's two parts. I think Yair should be difficult to get a hold of for Brian Ortega because he fights with a Taekwondo style, with a wide stance, a lot of hopping and awkward angles. Awkward for other MMA fighters. Every division has like one of these guys. Yep. Has a Yair or a Wonder Boy or like a Michael Venom Page over at Bellator. Yep. It's like style matchup is tough for these guys to stand against. That being said, even though Yair finished Korean Zombie in the waning moments of a 5-round fight, for me, the fact that this is a 5-round fight makes me lean more towards Ortega because across 5 rounds,
that no one else
kind of like Khabib said, he's like, you can stuff 8-9 takedowns. I just need one, brother. I just need one. And not that Ortega is a takedown guy, but like you said, Mark, I think Ortega just needs, the smallest window opportunity, and he snatches shit up so fast. And I think that is going to be the result in this fight. I'll say 4th round guillotine or something like.
Wow, we both went with the guillotine.
Ortega. Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
It feels guillotine-y.
Yeah.
Man, I was not expecting a unanimous Ortega here tonight. Look at that.
It's tough though. To me, it's a close fight.
It is.
I could definitely.
I won't be surprised if it goes the other way. I will not. I just think it's going this way.
Like I said, I want Yair
both
to
of these
win,
guys.
I want him to win so bad, but it's just hard for me with everything.
I'm an Ortega guy. I'll be rooting Ortega.
Yeah.
Mike, who are you rooting for?
I mean, I love watching. I'm rooting for Ortega, but I love Yair.
Oh yeah,
you gotta love. As much as a fan, I'm a fan of Brian Ortega, but I love watching Yair fight. But I don't think of Yair as like I'm a fan of
exact
his.
same.
Oh yeah, see, no, I've been following Yair since Ultimate Fighter Latin America, so I've got a little bit more of. No, yeah, he's my dude, man. It just like I said, it just seems like a tall order. Like if this was almost anybody else, I'd be picking Yair Rodriguez, but it's just
right.
Not only is Ortega one of my dudes, but I already had 5 seconds of my life where I celebrated because Brian Ortega was the champion, only
Yes.
to realize that he's not the champion. So,
Dude, that's what Ortega
I
said.
really need him to become it, so I can like have that feeling for real.
He said he was celebrating mid-choke.
In that interview that Omar was talking about, Ortega said, in my head, I was celebrating. Like, I had that guillotine.
Yeah.
And then, he goes, I was celebrating in my head. And he goes, I just don't know. And then next thing I know, he was out. And he's like, looking back, I've watched the tape so many times. I don't know how the fuck that guy got out of that guillotine.
That says so much about Volk, because for us to think it is one thing, to hear Ortega also be like, yeah, it should have been over. I don't know how it wasn't over. Is like, shows you how absurd it was that Volk got out of that.
The funny thing too is he goes, yeah, he gets out of it and he gets me on the ground and he's pissed and now he's hitting me. And then I'm like, oh, and then I get him in a T-City triangle and I'm like, yeah, I did it again. And then he gets out again.
Oh man, I gotta find this. Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he did give a little bit of a rationale that, he's watched the tape so many times. He's like, how the fuck did this guy get out of this submission? But when he watched it with Henry Gracie, he said there were tiny adjustments that he could have made, but he was forthright. He was like, over these past few years, I got kind of. He more or less said that he kind of got complacent in his jiu-jitsu and he focused more on striking, training his striking. So he kind of chalks it up to that a little bit, but then he also is like, even still, like, I don't know how Volkanovski wiggled out of that.
If that means he dialed up the jiu-jitsu training coming into this one, then I am even more on team Ortega by sub.
Dude, think about it. Brian Ortega's success in the submission game, on top of the fact that as a result of it, the entire world has basically been sucking that dude's jiu-jitsu dick since all of his submission wins. Like, he probably was like, I'm the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the fucking UFC right now. What's up? That's exactly how I'm assuming he went into that Volkanovski fight. If I get him on the ground, I win. It's an automatic win.
Right.
Ortega by sub is the most likely betting outcome of any type of finish.
Yeah.
Plus 200.
That makes sense. I'm guessing the next most likely one is Yair by knockout.
No, so Ortega sub plus 2. I'll read them off real quick in order. Ortega sub plus 200. Ortega decision plus 275. Yair decision plus 330. Yair knockout plus 400. Ortega knockout plus 425. And then Yair submission plus 1800.
Yes.
So basically what it's telling you is every single thing is very possible other than Yair by submission.
That's funny. Yair does have 3 submission wins.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Like I said, he's well-rounded. He can do it.
Get guys in the UFC, but you could tell that he can. You know what I mean? Like the way he moves down there, like him snatching up a sub on someone not named Brian Ortega would not be surprising, but he ain't getting it on Ortega.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Both of these guys have only lost pretty much to legends. And they're both 2 of the greats themselves, so.
Yep.
Yair Rodriguez has...
Honestly, I don't like seeing either one of these guys lose. So
Yair has never been submitted. How interesting.
This is true.
How Interesting.
But he's also never faced anybody like Brian Ortega, and Ortega's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I guess he didn't fight BJ Penn at his prime. If he did, that would have been a very interesting test.
Far from his prime.
Yeah, we fought. We had backyard fucking
2017
BJ Penn.
was already.
Jesus.
Yeah, how about the fact that Yair has come out and said that they did tell him he's getting the title shot if he wins this fight?
Wow.
I'm okay with that.
I think a win over Brian Ortega is worth a lot more than whatever Josh Emmett has done.
I agree. I 100% agree. Josh Emmett's going to flip shit,
well said.
but it is what it is.
Sorry, Josh.